The college basketball fans' dream travel schedule on the college basketball experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Yes. And we're back here on the college basketball experience. What's going on, everybody? My name is Noah Bieniek, aka 77, and I'm joined by the one and only Ryan McIntyre, former assistant of Frank Martin and Bob Huggins. He's been everywhere. There we go. Great stuff. So Mac, this is going to be a super fun episode. You let me lead off because I'm going to kind of attempt to steer the ship in this one. But we're going to bring on a very, special guest that Mac and I are happy to, have been able to meet in person before. Let me get rid of this hoop real quick and we'll add him on to the stream. What's going on? We're bringing in Rocco Miller here from he does great work on social media. Rocco Miller 8. You can follow him on Twitter there. Also, his website, bracketeer.org. Rocco, how is everything going tonight? Are you excited that the offseason and preseason is coming to a close and the season's first tip is just days away?
Great to be on with you, fellas. Good to see you again. Yeah, of course. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we want to see these teams for real. We're getting kind of sick, I think, already of these scrimmage scores coming through various third-party hands and some box scores, some no box scores. Injury information's probably the most important out of all that. But yeah, for me, like I've been ever since the Final Four last year, nonstop working on helping teams, consulting teams on building out their schedules. And also this last month, just putting all that into preseason work. And so just recently starting to feel better because I got all 31 leagues predicted, and preseason mid-major top 60 is now done, and it will be out on Twitter later this week. And then also Bracketeer is going to be releasing a mid-major All-America watch list for the first time. So that's coming out too. So yeah, it'll be a fun week just to put the final touches on all this work. But by and large, man, I can't wait to see who, in the era of the portal, there's going to be a lot of surprises, both positive and negative for different programs. So I can't wait to get to the bottom of that pretty quick.
100%. So let me ask you this. I know we're going to do the exercise of like the dream college basketball schedule. Have you set your schedule at least for like the first 30 days? I know you probably want to see who's winning games and who's overachieving, who's underachieving, and adjust from January February on. Yeah.
If so, are you announcing your travel schedule for like the entire college basketball world tonight on the show?
I mean, I probably shouldn't overcommit because things can change like literally in 24 hours. But I've got a little bit of a rough idea for the first week to get out to the Sioux Falls triple header, which we'll talk about as part of our dream trip, because I think that will be the place to be opening day. And then also there's been a little bit of a plan for a long time with some friends to do the Penn State football weekend. I'm originally from Washington, and so as long as that comes together, we'll be able to do their basketball game on the Friday against UMBC, the Retrievers. But yeah, besides that, and then also I've got a commitment to go to the inaugural Western Slam in Alberta, Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, for 4 terrific mid-major teams. It's Towson, UC Irvine, Kent State. All 3 of those teams, depending on who you ask, could be picked to win their league this year. And then Kennesaw State joining the Conference USA is the 4th team in that tournament. Just knocked off 2 really good teams in scrimmages, so they might actually be better than we thought. We'll see. And that'll be really cool because I'll be making my color analyst debut on ESPN Plus up at that tournament.
Really?
So it'll be worth the long trip up there. And besides that, I'm sure I'll find myself at a lot of other places in between, but we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. Congrats
Yeah.
on the color gig, by the way.
Yeah, appreciate that.
You know this. I've told you in person. I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to mention it, but we had a week out the first week of March Madness where
Yeah,
just
annual tradition. Yeah.
okay. So unorganized, just like organically meeting you everywhere within multiple times within days. And we had a gigantic schedule all over the place in Las Vegas. And this guy was everywhere as well, watching all the games, taking it in at a bunch of different places. I've told you this in person. You're my favorite follow on college basketball Twitter, and you've been for years. Because first and foremost, you're like a bracketology guy, and I'm a wannabe nerd. So I love absolutely everything that you do content wise, but also like you're a college basketball globetrotter. And this idea is like kind of right up your alley because I know something from following you. Like one night you're in California, then you could be in South Florida and or New York during the same week. Have you ever done an exercise quite like what we're gonna do here tonight?
Not this elaborate because I like to fly by the seat of my pants a little too much and see where the season takes us. There might be certain weeks, especially when we get later into the season, where if a team loses on like a Tuesday, almost like a flex game for Sunday Night Football, I might change my mind where I want to go in the next few days. Usually I don't have that much luxury, but if I do, I'll take advantage of it. Otherwise, my goal is really just to see as many teams as I can, especially early in the year. And then as the season materializes and we see what the national picture looks like for both the bubble and for all the conference races, and I don't care if it's the 31st best league or the best league, if there's a chance to go see those teams in person, you're going to see a very competitive, really competitive game. And I would much rather be there. Like I told you before we came on, Noah, I went to Central Connecticut Merrimack last year, which was the best two teams of the NEC. I'd much rather that game than a power conference game between 11th place and 13th place. It just doesn't do anything for me. So yeah, that's kind of the way I approach it. And then obviously if I've already seen a team once or twice, I'm going to go try to find somebody I haven't seen.
Yeah. And
Rocco, let me ask you this. When I was just going through the schedules, if, for example, like a McNeese or High Point that we know is going to be dominant, did you look to see if they potentially had a high major coming to them or had another top of the tier league from another mid-major coming to them? Because that'll be a good atmosphere and a good litmus test for both programs and their respective leagues.
No doubt. Yeah, that's kind of how I went about the exercise too. And I do it as well in the season. I think the top 6 mid-majors, for example, would be Grand Canyon, Princeton, McNeese, High Point, Bradley, and Arkansas State in any given order. That's the order I have it right now. But those 6 to me are clearly above the rest, at least entering the year. So those are 6 that if there's a chance to see them anywhere, I would actually go out of my way if I had to. Especially, if I didn't get a chance to see them last year. Like last year, I did see Arkansas State, I did see High Point, but I didn't see McNeese. So that's why I'm prioritizing them on opening night, for example.
This is a good comment from our buddy LFG in the YouTube chat. He goes, "This guy's cool. He's the hoops version of the college football stadium tour guy." Take that as a compliment because Michael Barker, a good friend of us, did a show with Colby throughout the college football preseason, even a couple of first weeks following his travel schedule. And that's kind of like what we got the idea for this show. And we knew you're a good friend of ours. Matt got into the kind of strategy around this. I went a different way. Like typically I don't go to too many games in person. I like to be a command center guy, get my eyes on multiple games at once. I think I thrive best in that kind of scenario and situation. And same with Mac and Colby to a point. They're both, handicappers by eye, and they like to watch the games. My strategy is like, I choose to attend games that are great games, but also on limited schedule days. So I'm landing a lot on Mondays, on Fridays, sometimes on Thursdays. Usually those are 50 to 60 game slates, but the really, really great ones are like few and far in those types of days. I don't think I chose one single standalone game on a Saturday. That's just how I operate. What are your thoughts on that, Rocco? Mac, did you kind of follow that as well?
I didn't have one Saturday. I was the same way. Dude, that's before I handed back to Rocco. That's why, man, we've been pounding the desk for these mid-major leagues to get more games on Mondays and Fridays.
On Mondays and Fridays.
Because the schedules are so limited, and you get an opportunity to get more eyeballs on your product. I mean, when you're buried on a 150-game Saturday slate, nobody gets to watch the two best teams in the Big West or the two best teams in the Southland or the CAA Patriot League. You pick your league.
100%. I couldn't agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. I one of the only good parts of the COVID year was a bunch of these leagues had to go to Friday, Saturday. So that particular season, I think I watched more Sunbelt games than I've ever seen because there was great Sunbelt games every Friday night. Mm-hmm. But once they didn't have to do the back-to-back thing, of course, they're not going to sign up for it. But I think the issue is so many of these leagues do the Thursday, Saturday model for their travel partners. And that just creates way too much inventory at each given time. It gets really frustrating when you have like 7 p.m. Eastern on a night where maybe there's 60 total D1 games and 45 of them tip off at 7 p.m. It's like at least maybe think about or consider, in baseball, they've now gone to like 6:30 start times for almost all games, or 6:40. And then you could also do like 7:20, 7:40, much like they've done with the NCAA tournament, where no game starts at the same time anymore. They at least spread them out by like 15, 20 minutes a tip off.
100%. I like the staggered start.
Yeah. So if every league just staggered their starts like that, then they could get more eyeballs on their own league and align with some other leagues doing the same thing. So maybe a future thought. Obviously, this is a business at this point. There's no more argument about amateurism anymore. So let's make the right business decision going forward. Outside of that, I would agree, to Noah's earlier question, my rule of thumb personally for Saturdays, I'm a command center guy with the high volume of games, 140 or more most Saturdays. My rule, if I'm on the West Coast, is I will only go to a game if it's the last game of the night. So if like St. Mary's has the 8 p.m. game, that's actually perfect because I can take almost every game in and then pop over there and be there in 20 minutes and not miss too much. And then being there an hour early, you can still watch the end of some earlier games before like a St. Mary's game tips off. And then if you're on the East Coast, I would only go to the first game of the day, like the noon Eastern. And so then you got the rest of the day to kind of settle in. So those are my rules really personally for Saturdays. I will say here for this exercise, I did it actually with the average fan in mind. So some of the picks that you'll hear me say might not be picks I would make myself, but I'm just trying to create something beautiful for the average fan.
All right, so I'm going to make this one last question. This one's a bit of a fun one, too. We're talking command centers. I got to know what yours looks like. I know Matt can get his thing up to 11 screens. I've got 3 TVs in my basement, computer, tablet, where I can watch games, and then my phone, where I'm constantly tweeting and putting out content from watching these college basketball games. Rocco, what does your command center look like here?
I would actually love that, but I've simplified it a little bit to where, I've had a tablet and I lost it like a year ago. I know. I need to replace that because that was a go-to for sure, especially for anything ESPN Plus or Flow Sports, which I do have an account for. And then on the TV, just kind of whatever game is the most important in the moment. But I have a really simple Android app for college basketball. I don't think most people have because A, most people probably don't have Androids. B, I don't know which company.
The green bubbles in our group text kind of gave that away.
Yeah.
There you go. So the funny thing is this is like a very lightweight app, but it keeps up with all the scores in real time very well. Doesn't take up any memory or anything. And so my rule is I can't watch a game that's close, like that's a bigger blowout than double digits. So I don't watch double digit games. As soon as the game goes into double digits, I flip it back over. I've got probably 20 to 30 stat broadcasts pulled up. So I'm constantly doing like cycle through. I can quickly move tabs over to the, out to the outside once a game gets 15 points or more of a blowout. That way I'm constantly just drilling down into the closer games as we get into the second half. This is more for weeknights when all these games start at 7 Eastern. But yeah, so there's like a lot of different methods to the madness. But also like if it's if it's February 1st and it's VMI Citadel for the battle for 9th place, I probably don't have too much focus on it. So that's another way to kind of filter it out as the season goes on.
Yeah, so I like all of this talk, and we could chat college basketball and how we're going to manage these schedules all day long. But let's get to the actual exercise. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break for station identification, because this episode of the College Basketball Experience is brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And we're asking you guys to just do us simple, quick favors: like, subscribe the video on YouTube, go give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or any podcast platform that you're listening to, because only you guys can prevent corporate gambling from taking over. And speaking of, one company that does support us is Underdog Fantasy, and their pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports: NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, and even college basketball when the season gets rolling here right around the corner. And Boostober is upon us, which means that you're getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and so much more. And you can now use those in all flexed entries on their site. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we're back here on the College Basketball Experience. It's Moneyline Mac, joined alongside myself, Noah Bieniek, and Rocco Miller of Bracketeer.org. You can follow him on Twitter at Rocco Miller 8. Here are the rules for today's exercise. We are crafting, the college basketball fans' dream travel schedule for the entire season. The rules: for most normal weeks, you can only choose 2 games to attend per week. Now, I know Rocco himself, he might choose 3 or 4. I don't know if that's typically how it would go, but also for feast week and other weeks that have MTEs, you are allowed to attend an MTE and also watch a game on television on the same day at the same time during your MTE. Or if your MTE ends and another MTE begins like later on in the week, or if there's a big game that you want to go see later on in the week, you can appear at that second, place of event as well. Rule number 3 is all 31 conferences must be represented once, at least once on the schedule. You can choose multiple times. And rule number 4, no single team can be picked more than twice, and this includes MTEs, where they're just one of possibly 8 or so teams. And rule number 5, last one. I didn't text this one to you guys prior, but we're going to choose what conference tournament that we also want to attend. That's in the postseason, but also that makes it 20 weeks. But just 4 minor stipulations for a 19-week regular season schedule, where we're choosing to attend an amount of upwards of 50 college basketball games this season. Do you guys have any questions?
I may have made a couple mistakes based on those rules, but I think most of it's still pretty solid. I didn't take into account the MTE part where you could hang out for an extra day, but that's okay. And then I think the duplicates, I may have 1 or 2, but if I did, it's not more than that, so we should be all right.
And for what it's worth, for the listeners, I just sent them in little bullets. I didn't put an entire paragraph in the text to Rocco and Max. So I didn't want them to read an entire phone screen of a text for these rules. So if there is a minor mistake, don't sweat it. With all of that cleared up, let's jump into this. So opening week, November 4th to November 9th, Monday through Saturday. So it's a shorter week than all the others. But Rocco, you kind of tipped your hand opening night. Where are you going to be?
So, Sioux Falls is the place to be if you're gonna go somewhere opening night. Otherwise, I think opening night has the most, at least amount of total games of any night of the season, something like 170 or 180, because there's so many non-D1 games against D1. But there's also a lot of big ones, with Texas playing Ohio State in Vegas, Gonzaga playing Baylor in Vegas. So you got that at the heavyweight level. But I think if you're going to end up at a venue, you might as well be at the triple header, which again, part of the Field 68 opening day classic or showcase, they're calling it, with McNeese taking on local South Dakota State. Should be a lot of fun. McNeese is my number 3 team in my mid-major top 60. And then outside of that, you've got 2 coaching debuts against each other with Southern Illinois' Scott Nagy, and Charleston's Chris Mack going up against each other. And then a really spicy one for teams with fringe bubble hopes. That would be Josh Schertz making his debut with the St. Louis Billikens with a fully healthy Robbie Avila. going against Santa Clara Broncos, my neighbors out here in the Bay Area, really scheduled a very difficult schedule, and it starts on opening night against St. Louis. So Santa Clara will be looking to get off to a good start. So all three of those games in the Pentagon, in Sioux Falls, great bang for your buck there on opening night.
100%. And I think that's the correct strategy because you do get the bang for your buck. You're in one place for 3 games. And obviously, all 6 teams are mid-major teams with great storylines. But, the one that I think is flying a little bit under radar, I like that Santa Clara squad quite a bit. I don't know if they can challenge Gonzaga or St. Mary's, but like in a year or two when Gonzaga possibly like goes to the Pac-12, like Santa Clara could be in the race to a version of the WCC with this team, in my opinion. Mac, I assume you had Field of 68 showcase as well on your schedule.
I did, and to all Rocco's points about just different coaches making their debuts, and then just 6 really good mid-major programs. Also, update: I just got banned from KenPom because I was scrolling too quick on the next day, so I'm gonna have to go over to Bart Torvik to navigate.
Just refresh it and close that.
I
close
did.
app
I've done
and
it 5 times, and he's banned me. So KenPom, if you're watching, please allow me my fucking access back.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, but hey, there's also some really good major games on that opening night too. I mean, you got the MAC and Sun Belt Challenge going on as well. Wichita goes to Western Kentucky, but I'm with Rocco. You get your best bang for your buck, and I'm not a big neutral site guy, but the Pentagon is definitely a prime location to catch a game.
Totally.
Yeah, and I will say general admission. So, like, if you want to plan this, get your plane tickets and head out the South Dakota, $10 general admission tickets for the Field of 68 showcase. It's absolutely amazing for 3 great games. Rocco, your second event during opening week, where are you going to head to?
Yeah, so this one's a little bit more of honor, history, and some recent tradition, and a chance to check off the Patriot League. On Friday the 8th will be the annual Veterans Classic. Now, I've talked to teams in scheduling that have played in this before. In fact, Ryan Odom will be back with his VCU Rams. He actually took Utah State there a couple of years ago. They rave about how cool this event is. The teams that play in it will have to actually get there a day early and do the whole military. There's a whole tour involved that you have to commit to. So there's not a lot of time for shoot around and prep on the 7th. But I guess it's a really valuable experience. And I think for a fan dream trip, you're getting another doubleheader. So I'm giving you 5 games for the price of 2 days. And the doubleheader this year is VCU taking on Boston College. So they will get, VCU is my preseason Atlantic 10 pick. And I think the media agreed with that on media day. I should remember that because I was there, but yeah, VCU's got a really strong team coming back, a chance to take on a Power 5 early, a game I think VCU will be picked to win. And then Navy playing Harvard, a really interesting game. Harvard really, I think, needs to crack that Ivy 4 this year, top 4 out of 8. Amaker's been there a long time, but they haven't made the Ivy 4 in a few years now, it seems like. And, Navy's got an awesome player in Austin Benini. He's an all Patriot League guy, can really stroke. So you're getting a lot of different things to watch when you go to this doubleheader.
All right. I'll get to my 2 because, like I said at the top, Monday, and Rocco said like 170 games on Monday. I chose not to do Field of 68. That's more of a command center day for me. I'm going to go to 2 games that I think have moneyline potential, moneyline dog. Wednesday, November 6th, I'm going to go to Fayetteville, Lipscomb at Arkansas. I think Lipscomb's got a lot coming back, and they love to shoot the 3. If they can make their shots in Arkansas, just a lot of moving parts, a lot of pressure on Cal on opening night at home. And then the day after that, I'm going to head up to Madison, Wisconsin. Montana State from the Big Sky, went to the NCAA tournament last season at Wisconsin. I think that's a great way to knock off the Big Sky, and I think they've got a really good shot to compete against the Badgers. Mac, what was your second game that you chose, or maybe event that you chose during opening week?
I went TMZ. I'm not gonna lie. I saw Carolina go into the Fog, and I'm like, it's not every day that you get 2 blue bloods in the Fog at the most famous arena in college basketball. So I did go Carolina, the Roy Williams Bowl. Can't beat that. Friday night at the Fog, Carolina KU. So that was my one TMZ game of this week.
Alrighty. Week 2, November 10th. through November 16th. Rocco, what did you have planned here?
Yeah, so I went geography here, and there was a few games throughout the calendar where I plugged them in early to just start building some anchors, and then I put some fillers around them. So this week started with making sure I was at High Point's biggest game of their non-conference, which is a home game against UAB on Friday night, the 15th. So again, Monday through Thursday, command center it up or do whatever you want to do, but got to be in High Point, North Carolina. For that big one against UAB. Two teams I'm picking to win their league, UAB. My pick to win the American preseason, High Point, of course, the pick in the Big South, one of those premier 6 mid-majors I mentioned at the start. Just a phenomenal matchup on Friday. And since you're out there in the Carolina region, not too bad of a drive to get over to Murfreesboro on Saturday for a nice local rivalry between Murray State and Middle Tennessee. I have a ton of intrigue on both teams. First, Murray State returning a really nice core behind Jacoby Wood. Picked third, I think, in the Valley. Certainly a top 25 level mid-major team for the poll I do for Field of 68. I've got them 17th coming into the year. And Middle Tennessee at 25th. They're the last team on my ballot for that pool. But I think Middle Tennessee is a team that keeps rising for me as I talk to more and more Conference USA coaches. Justin Porter's back from his injury and apparently fully healthy. They should have terrific guards. And, I think they've just been really snake bitten by injuries the last 2 years. Want to see them get off to a great start. McDevitt's one of the great guys in all of college coaching. And those two teams are really going to get after each other and be worth the price of admission on Saturday, November 16th.
Yeah, we just previewed the Conference USA. I'm super excited. That's honestly my favorite mid-major conference this season, in my opinion, whether I think, I don't know, I'm not going to get myself in trouble labeling conferences mid-major or not, but I'm going to stick to it.
Sure.
I really like that conference. I think they're live in the NCAA tournament this year. Mac, what do you have planned for this week on your schedule?
So I had a Thursday, Friday. Thursday night, I went to an old Missouri Valley rivalry. I had Northern Iowa and Wichita. If you remember those two teams had some great battles in the day. I know Wichita's over there in the American. We'll see how they do under Paul Mills year 2. Ben Jacobson always has a staple program. And then, I had to put this game for my own brand. I went the brawl on Friday night. So, West Virginia Pitt, you know me, man. I'm a rivalry guy. So, West Virginia Pitt, the one game a year. I thought about High Point UAB, but I did squeeze in a High Point home game against another AAC team down the road in my because I got to get High Point in there. So, yeah, I got the brawl Friday night the 15th.
There's plenty of ways to craft these things, and that's why I think this exercise is amazing, because now that you guys mentioned my TMZ pick for this week, Tuesday, November 11th, I'm going to Atlanta for the Champions Classic. I think it always delivers. They could paint any storyline they want, and then some guy comes off the bench and drops 20. It's outstanding. And then Thursday, November 14th, I'm going to choose another money line potential mid-major over high major game early on in the year. It's an in-state battle, little brother against big brother. I think Grand Canyon has a chance to knock off Arizona State. I want to be there in person to watch that neutral site game. I think Grand Canyon's fans are super passionate. I think they have a chance to show up. I think that one is in Glendale, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't write it down, unfortunately. But, that's a great week as well. And then we're going to get into the MTEs begin to kind of heat up during this week, November 17th, November 23rd, the third week of the college basketball season. Rocco, what did you select for this one?
Yeah, there's a lot of great choices in the MTE world. I had already filled in with some pretty fun games on this week, so I went with traditional games. So we're going to start with the 19th, which is Tuesday night. A really special John Brandon special, Cincinnati at Northern Kentucky. And that's John Brandon, of course, took the Cincinnati job from NKU about, at the end of the 2010 decade and did a 4-year contract. And Wes Miller did everything in his power to get out of this thing, but couldn't get out of it. So they built an MTE out of it. Cincinnati in Wes Miller's second season 2 years ago, the only time they played at Northern Kentucky. They only scored 11 points in the second half and got beat by 13. And so Northern Kentucky 1-0 all time at home against Cincinnati. They're going to look to follow that up again against an even better Cincinnati team, a team that by many are being projected to be NCAA tournament bound, a very loaded Cincinnati team. The environment at NKU on that Tuesday is going to be phenomenal. So definitely added to the dream trip here. And do you want me to do my second one or pass it over to Mac?
Go ahead with your second, but I just want to say that was so close to being on my schedule.
Good. So the other one is, one of the priorities I made for this typical average fan out there was to get them to some of the most important places to see. So I do have some of the historic and great places across the country on my list. And so the other fact of this pick is the fact that I don't think Duke's played a road non-conference game in over a decade. So Duke is going to Arizona this year, so it's a chance to see some history because they very rarely do it in non-conference play, especially coming out to the Pacific time zone or whatever Arizona calls their time zone. And so you got Duke at Arizona on the 22nd. I just think that'll be a special night. McHale Center is going to be out of control, crazy. And so it's just two unbelievable games right there during that week.
Matt, go ahead with yours.
So I had on, I believe it was the 18th. So early in the week, this is a rematch. So I have two rematches. Last year, San Diego State won at Gonzaga. Now you got Gonzaga going back to San Diego State, two of the premier, I guess, graduated mid-majors. Now they're mid-major plus, high major, whatever you want to qualify them as. Dutcher does a great job. Few does a great job. And then I'm with Rocco. You got to go Duke, Arizona, especially with Arizona winning at Durham last year. Revenge, National Championship 2000, go on. So those were my two games.
So what I did for this weekend, I am pinched because I'm going to go to this MTE and also another game that I circled for storyline that I wanted to put in early. They're within an hour of each other, so I'm going to make it work. Legends Classic in Brooklyn. It's an MTE, 4 teams, 2-day event. Syracuse versus Texas, Texas Tech versus St. Joe's in the first round. When I was looking at this, I was like, there's 2 teams from the Big 12. And then I remembered that, you know what? Texas and Texas Tech might actually get to play each other like one time this season because originally, Texas leaving the Big 12 might have been able to dodge all those teams from Texas. But Texas Tech has a chance to go at the Longhorns on that second day of that MTE. Then I'm going to scramble my ass off, get up to, MSG for the 2 Patino family members and Richard taking on Rick. Mac had mentioned this before. Rick went over to New Mexico with Iona, and he said, you're going to owe me in a couple of years, and this is the year that Richard has to pay it back with New Mexico when I think St. John's is ready to roll this year. So that's going to be a great game, Sunday, November 17th. Before we jump into Feast Week, because Feast Week is going to be very fun, and I think we might land on a couple of the same, but it's going to be plenty of storylines. I want to mention that SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on moneyline spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model or copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, and Rhythm will give you predictions for every game and player prop, and also a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Plus, Rhythm's NBA models are now live, and the college basketball ones are right around the corner. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And the college basketball experience is also brought to you by BetUS. You can bet with the best in the business. They've been around for more than 30 years. And BetUS also has their Trick or Treat on Horror Street promo going right now. From now until Halloween, BetUS will be offering daily promotions plus a raffle entry to win a sports or casino prize pack that they will give away on October 31st. You can enter multiple times, plus every $200 deposit gets you one extra entry. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. And we're back here on the college basketball experience, going through the college basketball fans' dream travel schedule for the upcoming 2024-25 season with our special guest, Rocco Miller of Bracketeer.org. You can follow him on Twitter at RoccoMiller8. It's Moneyline Mac and myself, Noah Bieniek. Rocco, we saved the best for just after the ad. Feast week. I know you're like a savant when it comes to wanting to see the most amount of teams in the most efficient way possible. Is Feast week your favorite week of the season too?
It is a lot of times, but it depends on the year. Some years, if I'm back home, and we usually go back home like the weekend of the Apple Cup, which is Washington State football. Then we've got like family. So some of the Thanksgivings I actually miss more games than I do any other time of year. But Apple Cup's over, big Pac-12's over. So I think the future is bright in terms of future feast weeks. But I'll digress. There is a lot of basketball, and of course, taking in as much as possible. I think for the travel, if you have the ability to get away for this week, why not go to the Battle for Atlantis? I actually made this pick with Gonzaga.
That's my choice too.
Yeah, with Gonzaga in mind, because Gonzaga's got the opportunity to get 2 matchups in this thing that would just blow Gonzaga's minds in terms of potential. The first one would be if they get Indiana, which I think if chalk holds, they will. Nothing against Mac here, but they will be picked to beat West Virginia in the opener. And then Indiana is a potential semifinal. So the big storyline there, of course, Omar Ballo used to play for Gonzaga before he went to Arizona. And then speaking of, and I know we already went to Arizona, so not to double dip on them, but a Tommy Lloyd rematch with Gonzaga would blow everybody's mind. So I know out here in the West, everybody's pulling for that to come together. I think if chalk holds, that's probably what chalk says. But otherwise, you've got some other really good competitive teams. West Virginia themselves, Louisville's going to be playing Indiana in the opener, which is an awesome local rivalry being misplaced out in the islands for a fun matchup. And then on the other side of the bracket, Providence is in there, and I'm sure their fans will be down there causing a ruckus. And Oklahoma's got a lot to prove, and Davidson's going to be scrappy. So I think overall you're going to see 8 good teams, and if you stick around for the whole thing, that's a lot of basketball. That's 12 games right there. So
yeah, Atlantis is a place that I want to be as well. You mentioned the big storylines with Gonzaga and how they can possibly map up here with Umar Ballo, and then also with Tommy Lloyd. But also Umar Ballo could play Arizona in the final if chalk doesn't hold. But also the amount of coaches, and you hinted at this a little bit, just the amount of coaches in pivotal years, whether it's their first year in the program or it's like a year that they have to make some noise and get the fan base to fully believe and embrace their program. Because I'm looking at Providence and Oklahoma, and they played in game 1 there. Those are 2 really big situational years for both coaches. And then the new head coaches in Louisville and West Virginia, and then also Mike Woodson in Indiana. I'm gonna keep throwing him out into this area as well. Mac, what is the place that you're going to be during feast week? And then we'll get into Rocco and myself and your MTE that we're most likely going to be watching, I think, because a Battle for Atlantis was on the weekend, I believe. So yeah, Mac, where are you going to be?
Yeah, so maybe I just don't want to go watch the Zags beat up on my Mountaineers. I chose Maui. I've always wanted to go to the Maui Invitational. It's a staple. I mean, in that high school gym, you got a loaded field.
Back in the Stan Sheriff Center because of the what was it, the earthquakes that affected them a year prior. So yeah, they're back in the Stan Sheriff Center this year.
And this field's loaded. I mean, you got Iowa State, you got Auburn, you got Carolina, Memphis. Oh, that team UConn that's won back-to-back national championships. Tom Izzo's out there with Sparty. Dayton's out there. Colorado. So a lot of potential storylines. I like the Maui and combine it with the bucket list. I'm gonna take my shirt off and go out to Maui, watch some hoops.
Smart.
That was the tournament that I chose to watch on my screens or whatever. When I'm in Atlantis, I'm choosing to watch Maui just because you have to, there's going to be a huge celebration because they are returning to the normal site where they play all the games. So it's going to be great. And I think that field is loaded as well. Rocco, I don't know if you swung another MTE that you can be able to visit in person, or if you're watching something on a screen. What else are you taking in during Feast Week?
Yeah, you're gonna need a good pilot for my plan, but Bahamas tournament actually ends, I believe, on Saturday. So to get another game in another location, Sunday there's a special event happening in Scranton, Pennsylvania, of all places. It's the hometown of new Siena head coach and former Syracuse legend Jerry McNamara. They've scheduled a game with Bucknell, where John Griffin III is the head coach. John Griffin's up and coming, phenomenal basketball mind. If you guys haven't met him yet, I'd bring him on. He's awesome. His dad used to coach Siena. So this is a very, very special game being played in Scranton. The son of the Siena coach of yesteryear versus the new Siena coach who's from Scranton. And I believe they're playing at a local community center where it won't be a very big crowd. It'll be a really special environment. Very cool for the dream trip.
Awesome. I love how you threw in the nugget. You're going to need a good pilot, aka maybe even a private jet, but I'm sure Rocco's got one and he's going to be there. He's going to make it work. Rocco, the following week after Feast Week, December 1st to December 7th, what do you have tentatively planned here?
This is going to be very TMZ for me, but I'll go with Dusty May's first ever Big Ten game, and it's on the road at Wisconsin. I think that'll be a really awesome Big Ten opener. A lot of good choices that day too, because there's
the you get along with Dusty, right? You're good friends with
Dusty's great, and publicly, Dusty, congrats. I'll look forward to seeing you at some point this year, and they've built a hell of a staff and a hell of a roster, and they're sneakily kind of my pick to win the Big Ten this year. That's a big expectation in year one, but
the offense is going to be good. We'll see on the defensive side, but I'm excited.
Yeah, Mike Boynton's there to help with that, so we'll see how that goes. But they've got a tremendous staff, and I like the roster quite a bit. But that'll be the first litmus test at the Kohl Center, a very difficult place to play, and that's coming up on the 3rd. Which I believe is Tuesday. It might be Wednesday. I might have that mixed up, but we're midweek here. Then I'm going to get you out of Wisconsin and into Omaha, Nebraska the next night for Kansas at Creighton. I've done a couple Creighton games. I was at the Creighton Marquette game last February, done multiple Creighton games over the last few years. That place, they never get, from a Creighton's fan psychology, they don't get teams like Kansas to ever come in there. That place is going to be a zoo. For that game. Creighton might beat them by 20 just because the atmosphere will be that great, but you'll have a great time going to that game on the dream trip.
Awesome. And Ryan Hasty in our YouTube chat saying we need more Rocco on TCE because you're adapting the language where we say the TMZ stuff because we hate to admit it, but I mean, still, like those big games often deliver. And I mean, college basketball is great. Any different level, we like to respect them all. But the top of the top, it might not be anything better. This week, I'm crossing off a couple of conferences by going to some non-con matchups between some teams that I expect to be at the top of their league standings for Monday, December 1st. I think UMass Lowell is a very solid program. They're unfortunately right behind Vermont. I don't want to go see, them against anybody else in their conference other than Vermont. But I do think that a team that could be possibly on their level and also one of the front runners in the NEC this season, I'm going to go to UMass Lowell at Central Connecticut State on Monday, December 1st. And then Tuesday, December 2nd, I'm going to need a pilot to go from, the Northeast into Minneapolis because I'm going to go play for the brand, for the TCE brand, Chicago State at our Tommies, the St. Thomas Tommies up there in Minnesota. Two of our favorite programs facing off against each other. Rocco, before I get to Mac, we have a run-on joke about Chicago State because they played the World Tour. Have you ever helped Chicago State schedule these things out? Because oh my God, their schedules this year, at least they're in a conference with the NEC, but they're so entertaining to look at every single year with the amount of globetrotting that they're doing in their own right.
Well, they're in the NEC now, so those days are coming to a close. They get 16, I think, guaranteed games, at least 14. So they schedule the rest. I've indirectly been involved with some Chicago State stuff. Most coaches that reach out to me are looking for a phone number there because they're impossible to track down historically.
Okay.
But I think the new staff lately, Gillian's off to LIU, as you guys know, but I think the new staff did a quick job this year. They actually got their schedule done fairly early for historical precedent.
Yeah, and I figured I'd ask because like they're historically like unfortunately unable to fill like the 31 games. I think last year they only played like 26, and all of them were like done in mid-February. Mac, where'd you go for this first week of December?
So for this week, I had another TMZ game. 2 out of the last 3 national champions are squaring off in UConn. Baylor, UConn, Wednesday, December 4th. Looking forward to seeing Baylor go east to Stores. That place to be jumping. And then Friday night, I teased it out. Rocco chose the other High Point home game. I went North Texas Friday night at High Point. That's a hell of a game. I like Ross Hodges at North Texas as well. So Alan Huss gets a good test here.
Yeah, and we're going to move on to the next week, which I think for about 50%, maybe a little bit larger than that, this is exam week. So December 8th through the December 14th. Rocco, any thoughts on, I don't know if you have any more insight on exam week and how teams go about scheduling during this time period in December, but where have you tentatively scheduled to be during that week?
Yeah, I mean, most teams, it's just a blackout period until Saturday, and then they'll play a game on Saturday. So you're probably going to notice that on most schedules, depending on what type of institution it is and how their system is set up for school and classes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Saturday, Sunday, even though it's probably against my norm unless it's an early morning game. But I thought this was really cool for Drew Joyce III's taking over the Duquesne Dukes program. He's going to be going back to his high school, St. Vincent St. Mary's, of course, in Akron. And Duquesne's played there for about 7 or so years since Dambrot got the job. But this will be his first time going there as the Duquesne head coach. It's going to be a special day for him. And he's not going to have a walk in the park. He's going to have the CAA favorites, the Towson Tigers, coming in there. And don't forget, I think it has been 7 games. If it's only been 6, please forgive me. But Duquesne, either way, is undefeated in this particular game. And every year they take on a tough test. So he's going to have to uphold that tradition of winning that game, especially with the extra pressure of him being a former player. Be a pretty cool day there in Akron.
All righty. Mac, what did you have planned for exam week here?
So I was able, because we got to get the MEAC and SWAC in here, and I was seeing if they had any non-con home games. Hofstra's going to Norfolk State on December 9th. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to get a MEAC home game against a quality opponent from the CAA and Hofstra. And then later that week, I have another South Dakota State game. I love Eric Henderson, that program. They're going to Reno. So, I mean, these are 2 NCAA tournament teams year in and year out. I crowbarred that one in there. So mid-major week for me here with some quality teams.
All right, I'm gonna be the big swinger, I guess. I chose a light day Thursday, Friday slate for my travels, but I'm gonna go to a big rivalry game in state, Iowa State and at Iowa over there. I think that one's gonna be. What'd you say, Rocco?
The Cyhawk.
Yes. I think that one has a chance to really deliver it. Most of the times it does, and if I remember correctly, there was a little bit of a blowout last season. I don't know if I am remembering correctly, but I think this one is going to be very fun as advertised as it usually is. And then I'm going to follow that up and head down to the Bayou because I am actually hopeful for Georgia Southern this season. And I think Louisiana Tech is going to be one of the best teams in one of my favorite mid-major conferences in Conference USA. So Georgia Southern at Louisiana Tech Friday, December 13th is what my choice was there. December 15th through December 21st is our next week that we're going to talk about. Rocco, lead us on.
Well, I actually didn't give you my second one for the previous week. So that Sunday is the 15th. So I think we're going Monday to Sunday, right? That's the way I looked at it. But we have a triple header in Milwaukee, so that's a no-brainer. So yeah, I might actually find myself there in actual real life. And it's a fun one. It's a blend of a little bit of TMZ, a little bit of next level, and then a true non-power game between. So I think it starts off Milwaukee, the home team, against Akron. All games being played at the Bucks Arena. So that'd be pretty cool. Fiserv Forum, and then a big one, I think, hopefully for the bubble, for both teams' sake, Loyola Chicago taking on San Francisco. They met once upon a time in Salt Lake City, Utah during COVID, and I was actually there for that. So it'd be good to see those two. Yeah, those two clash again. And then the little bit of TMZ splash is Northwestern taking on Georgia Tech. A couple sleeper teams, and surely the winner will feel a little bit better about their chances heading into conference play.
I love how you throw in like the sidebar of that. Oh, you know what? I might find myself here. But yeah, I remember watching that San Francisco Loyola Chicago game because it was not on cable. It was being streamed on some website, and I remember like just a janky, just a janky stream, and it was a great game and delivered. And it began at noon, and that's another thing that Mac and I always talk about. Like the midweek games, start them at noon because then you can get like just all of college basketball's interest on those early games. So I'm sorry about jumping the gun, but yeah, the next week up until December early 20s, Rocco, lead us off.
Yeah, so this will be year 2 and perhaps sadly the final year of the CUSA WAC Challenge. And Tuesday night we got the predicted league champions playing each other, and I would say the better team is going to be the road team, which makes the game even better. So Grand Canyon is going to Ruston, Louisiana to take on Daniel Bacho and the Bulldogs. Hopefully, it gets everybody's attention down in Louisiana and they pack that place. But that should be some high-level basketball between the Lopes and the Dogs. And then later on in the week, over at the Mohegan Sun, it's an opportunity to see both the MEAC and the SWAC in the Hall of Fame HBCU Challenge. I believe it's the Chris Paul Challenge. So a doubleheader of HBCU teams playing out there at the Mohegan Sun. Good opportunity as well to watch the other games while you're at the casino in between games.
Yeah, this is one of the weeks where it was like so fun for me to try to decide. This was like a puzzle piece week for me where there was a couple of different games that I might have been landing on. I don't know if I was lagging there for a little bit with my connection, but Mac, where are you going to head this week?
So Rocco stole right from me. Louisiana Tech and Grand Canyon. I mean, we just did the Conference USA last night. We have Louisiana Tech right there. Grand Canyon's one of the best mid-majors. So, and I got to go down to Louisiana. And then later in the week, the 18th, which I believe is a Thursday, VCU's going to the Pit. I mean, VCU, New Mexico at the Pit. I think that's one of the more fascinating mid-major plus matchups here. Mountain West 8-10. Maybe both teams projected at the top of their leagues and what both hope and expect to be multi-bid leagues. So VCU, New Mexico, maybe some bragging rights between the Mountain West and A10.
How much of my preamble did you guys catch before I probably lagged and kicked it over to Matt?
No, we got most of it, I think.
Yeah, we got.
All right.
Yeah,
the camera screen's always terrible on YouTube, but the audio usually follows through. So yeah, this was one of my favorite weeks. I'm going to go to a couple of mid-major games that I had specifically circled. I'm going to love the Wofford at Charleston game, aka the I don't even remember the poor kid's name, but this is an on-brand play. Yeah, Ryan Larson. Poor kid. It started his career at Wofford for 4 years, finished it at Charleston. But both of these teams are expected to be like real players in the SoCon NCAA, respectively. Wofford at Charleston's Tuesday, December 16th. And I was talking about puzzle piece games. The two Titans, we usually call these system plays on like a college experience because they just run their leagues. This is one that I kind of threw in late. I went back to Monday, December 15th for this one, actually. Vermont at Colgate. Both of them typically run their respective conferences and in the America East and Patriot League. Sign me up for that one. I think Colgate's really vulnerable this year, whereas Vermont, I think they have a chance to be 26, 27 win team this season. They go on the road, like another one of those situations where Rocco was talking about. I expect the better team to be on the road in a really good environment. That one's going to be a great game to attend. The next week is Christmas week, and I want to start this one off because this is the event that I look forward to every year. It saves my Christmas week for college basketball wise. Diamond Head Classic is where I'm going to go. It's my favorite MTE every single year in Hawaii, as well as the Rainbow Warriors host this thing December 22nd through the 25th. They do take a day off on Christmas Eve, but it's Oregon State against College of Charleston, so I'm able to scratch off the Pac-12 with a Charleston game. Also, Loyola Chicago against Oakland, Nebraska, Murray State, Charlotte against Hawaii. And then on my, tablet, I usually take a tablet instead of a computer. I'm going to pull up the McNeese State Louisiana game. This week is absolutely loaded, in my opinion, for interesting, mid-major college basketball. And McNeese State Louisiana, that's a tremendous rivalry that's been rejuvenated with Will Wade heading over to Lake Charles. Rocco, did we have any overlap there? What are your thoughts? Where are you going to be for this week?
No, I mean, that's a great choice. I just thought if I went to Hawaii, I might not make it to a second destination. So I prevented myself from doing it, but that's an excellent choice, of course. I actually skipped ahead to later in the week. The next weekend is the Saturday, the 28th. The brand new Intuit Dome, the home of the Clippers in Inglewood, is going to host a doubleheader with Gonzaga UCLA being the headliner. Of course, another opportunity to see Gonzaga. Sorry for double dipping there. But you also get to see UCLA, a pretty critical non-conference opportunity for both teams, as you guys know. And then Grand Canyon playing again against San Diego. So double dipping on the Lopes. But it's just a throw-in game because San Diego not expected to be that great. So if they can make it close, you get a little extra bonus there. And then the second game will be the next day. And we're going to hurry up and get out of Inglewood, California, and go to Des Moines, Iowa. So we can be there for the Missouri Valley opener between Belmont and Drake, two upstart teams, two mystery teams entering Missouri Valley play, but two terrific programs. And Ben McCollum making his MVC debut. Should be an awesome crowd, even though it's the holiday season in Des Moines. And Belmont, from all accounts that I've heard behind the scenes, is already scorching the nets from three. Should be really awesome to see them in their opener as well.
Outstanding. Yeah, that's going to be a great game. Mac, where are you going to be during Christmas week?
Yeah, I better bring my wife to this trip because I'm going back to Hawaii. I'm going for the Diamond Classic. So I went to Maui for Thanksgiving. Now I'm just going to Honolulu for Christmas. So she better be involved. Or I may be divorced here come soon, but by March Madness. But we got Charles. You mentioned the field, no? Charleston, Oregon State, Loyola, Oakland, Nebraska, Murray, Charlotte, Hawaii. Solid field. A lot of storylines out there. A lot of programs looking for big wins before they head into league play. And the iPad game, the tablet game. What do they call it? The Border War, or the bragging rights game, where Illinois, Missouri. Yeah. That game is always chippy. Dennis Cates, big year, bringing in that transfer class, not winning a game last year in the SEC. Brad Underwood's always run a good program. So the bragging rights game will be my iPad game.
All righty. And then when I was kind of scrolling through New Year's week, this was a week that I was like, you know what? This one's a little bit lighter. Rocco, did you think the same December 29th through January 4th? Where are you going to head during New Year's week?
Yeah, so on the 2nd, Thursday the 2nd, we got the Jason Hooten Bowl, and it's actually the conference opener in Conference USA, and it's in Las Cruces. So Sam Houston actually won the regular season crown of CUSA last year under Chris Mudge, a longtime assistant of Jason Hooten. Now he's going to bring his pesky Bearcats into play, a brand new, revised, improved Aggie team. Certainly my dark horse pick in the Conference USA is New Mexico State. Sam Houston, I mean, both these teams are in my top 60 quite safely. Should be an awesome environment down there in Las Cruces on Thursday night. So that's how I'm going to start the week. And then I'm going to end up back out in California in Orange County to see my boy Russell Turner. UC Irvine is hosting UC Riverside. And I do have Irvine a little bit tougher, as they usually are on paper going into the year. I think they're 9th in my rankings for the non-power teams. But I do have Riverside winning the auto bid come Big West tournament time, because I think Riverside behind Isaiah Moses and Barrington Hargress have the best guards in the league. And, if you're going to pull off upsets on the road, you're going to do it with great guard play. And you might just see Mikey Magpio's boys go into Orange County and steal one from the Irvine kids. Should be an awesome game on the 4th.
That's great insight because Rocco, we're previewing the Big West right after this tonight. So great stuff, and your boy Russell Turner's on the thumbnail he's the poster boy for the Big West. So
tell him I look forward to seeing him in Alberta.
All righty, Mac, where are you heading during New Year's week?
So I have a really good mid-major game on the 30th. I got Akron at Princeton. We talked about it.
I'm going to be there with you. Let's go. Press row.
we all like Princeton. We think they're the clear-cut favorite in the Ivy. They went to Sweet 16 2 years ago. Then Akron with John Gross. They always reload. And they got a bunch of former Mountaineers on that team via the transfer portal class. So I like the Zips team. And then later in the week, let's get a little NEC opener Friday night, Chicago State at Wagner. Got to get Chicago State into my little field here. So let's go.
Yeah, you squeezed them in, I guess, a little bit later. But, yeah, brand play for sure for us. And then so my second game during this week, I'm actually going on New Year's Day, Wednesday, January 1st, going to see one of the Horizon League favorites in Purdue-Fort Wayne at Northern Kentucky, another, big program in the Horizon League that is expected to compete for a banner this year, but also we don't know how steady the program is going to be after losing Marquez Work. So I'm super interested against new blood, old blood, new money, old money going up against each other kind of Wednesday, January 1st. We go to the second week in January 1st through the 11th. Rocco, where are you heading this week?
Yeah, so in the America East Conference, Noah, you're going to have Vermont, of course, is on paper the pick to win the league. And their two biggest challengers, in my opinion, are both UMass Lowell and Bryant. So this is going to be a pick your favorite Vermont adventure week because guess what? They're going to both Lowell and Bryant that week, Thursday and Saturday. You go to either one of those, I'm happy with it because on Sunday, I'm sending you to Syracuse for an NEC non-eligible NCAA tournament game. We're going to knock it out early in January before the conference really materializes. But we have brand new Mercyhurst to Division I going to Lemoyne in year 2. Yes. And those two teams actually have some interesting players, and they're up and coming, well-funded programs that are looking to take their teams to the next level. That'd be a fun little Sunday treat for you after your Vermont adventure.
Yeah, those two were formerly in the same conference, I believe, the Northeast 10. So yeah, a rivalry renewed, I think. Yes. I don't know 100% there. So yeah, for sure. Interesting. Matt, what'd you decide? What do you have planned for this week?
Monday night swaction, baby.
Yes, I'm there too.
Grambling, Texas Southern. Yeah, I mean, Texas Southern, they're kind of the staple of this league. Grambling won it last year for the first time in forever. And Noah, do you have the OVC on your list here?
Yes,
for
I
Thursday
do.
night?
Yes,
yeah, Moorhead and Little Rock. So we'll make this trip together from Texas Southern up to Little Rock. This will be a fun week.
Yeah, it's going to be. That's going to be great. Hopefully the Monday game doesn't get delayed so we can get out of there and get to Little Rock. But yeah, the women's game and then the band performances in the middle of the women's and men's games in the SWAC. Also could be a power box explosion outside of the stadium that could delay the game. So, but yeah, we've got some SWAC and OVC action that week, both Mac and I guess. That leads us to the third week, January 12th through the 18th. Rocco, what did you have decided here? Because this is, I think, where we get to universally mostly conference games, correct?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, even at the beginning of January, most leagues, I know the Ivy League can wait a little while and the NEC can wait a little while because they have smaller quantities of teams. But beyond that, everybody else is already rolling. So, I think it's one of the premier games this year in the Mountain West. We're going to go back to the great state of New Mexico, this time to Albuquerque. For the game on the 17th between Boise State, the pick to win the league by coaches and media to start the year. And they are visiting, of course, New Mexico. Last year when they played each other, it was a classic finish, a tremendously hard-fought game. I think the blood will be boiling before tip-off in this one, especially since it's the first of 2, I believe, meetings of the year. They'll go back to Boise later. Awesome atmosphere.
I'll see you there, Rocco. I'll see you there.
It's the dream trip. You got to go to the pit if it's really a dream trip.
100%.
And then we're going to stay sort of in the mountains time zone. I guess they're actually Pacific time zone technically, but we're going to get you up to Moscow, Idaho for a few reasons. One, and this is on the 18th, we have Eastern Washington taking on the Vandals. A lot of deep reasons for this. So one, Idaho's arena is entering year 3. And I'm really kicking myself already for missing out the first 2 years. Got to try to get up there this year. It looks unbelievably beautiful, all the pictures. And you can tell by what they're doing in NIL, they're starting to get better. So the Vandal program on the rise, you can be a part of that story by going to a game this year. And no better game to go to than the Eastern Washington game. Why? Because in the last time Idaho really made a run and won NCAA tournament games in the early 80s, they had a guy named Don Monson as their head coach. And his son happens to be the head coach now, of course, the great Don Monson of Eastern Washington. So you get the Monson family reunion. It's going to be an emotional day, I know, for the whole family. And I mean, can't wait for that matchup in Idaho.
Great storylines there. And yeah, we've heard great things from Colby, who's made the trip up there, I believe, for that. And Idaho is a team that I was hitching my wagon to late last year. It was a little bit of a bumpy ride for me personally, but yeah, I could definitely see the potential for that program getting there in the Big Sky. Mac, where are you heading there this week?
So the Big 12 is going to be highlights, showcase game after showcase game, electric atmosphere. But when the Jayhawks go to Hilton, man, that place is on another level. So Wednesday night, the 13th, I do have Kansas at Iowa State. Little TMZ, but I mean, if you ever can go to a Kansas-Iowa State game or Kansas-Kansas State game, you got to go to it, especially when Kansas is the road team. So 2 top 5 teams can't pass that up. And then Friday night, MACtion, John Gross once upon a time took Ohio to a Sweet 16. And now he's facing the Bobcats on a Friday night, and probably the 2 frontrunners in the MAC, I would say. Akron and Ohio this year, potentially. I know Toledo and Kent are always good, but Jeff Bowles has a loaded squad, and John Gross is always good.
Yeah, and like I said with Rocco, I'm going to see him at the pit for Boise at New Mexico. The other game that I'm going to go to this week is in the middle of the cornfields. I'm going to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, where Rutgers, they have the 2 dynamic freshmen, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. I'm going to get eyes on them at Nebraska, who's my sleeper Big Ten team. I have them sneakily into the top 6 in the standings. Not quite as bold as maybe Rocco predicting Michigan to win the league, but New Mexico. What'd you say?
I think that's more bold.
Nebraska
in the top 6. I think
Nebraska is my sleeper team in the Big Ten this year. So I'm going to get eyes on them against a couple of dynamic freshmen that I'm going to want to see once, because they're only going to be in college basketball 1 year. And Rutgers, who knows? Maybe at this point in the season, we Rutgers is a real player, or maybe they're like kind of a dud. And it's like, maybe these guys might take the last month off and get ready for the NBA draft. I don't know, but I'm going to go get my eyes on them. And then Rocco, what'd you say?
Certainly possible that that latter scenario comes to fruition.
100%. It's a super interesting scenario because Peichel, super defensive minded head coach, and both of these kids, we'll see what the buy-in looks like. I'm a little bit curious on that part because the defense could be a little bit up in the air compared to the steadiness that they've had in recent years. But it's going to be, I think, it's a low bar, but it's going to be the best offense that Peichel's had at Rutgers. So super interesting. Yeah. The next week here is January 19th through the 25th. Rocco, what do you have tentatively scheduled for this week here?
Yeah, we got to get ourselves out to the SoCon, one of the great leagues in all of America. The basketball down there is tremendous. And it's in the top 5 to 7 teams this year should all have a crack at taking this championship. Now, Samford's become the standard. Of course, winning the double last year, winning both the league title and the conference tournament title, what we like to call the double in bracketology. And they're the hunted this year. And Chattanooga gets them at home on the 22nd, which I believe is Wednesday night. Nice night to go see some SoCon action. Chattanooga got bloodied up badly both times against the Bulldogs last year, including a 22-point embarrassing home loss. So you can't tell me that this team with Hunter Huff back and some great pieces back, Trey Bonham included, haven't circled this game from the middle of the summer or even the end of the spring. It should be electric on a Wednesday night in Chattanooga. Looking forward to getting out there. And then, the next one's a no-brainer. We got the Ed Cooley game in Providence again. If you're really doing the dream trip, you got to do this, and you got to get there at 6 a.m. and do the whole day, and you got to do it right. So enjoy it. Georgetown, early indications they're significantly better. We'll see if that's true. Even if they're not, this day will be an absolute riot. Georgetown at Providence on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I think that I might have to call an audible because that was a Saturday game. I didn't take many Saturdays into even consideration, but that one's a damn good one. That's going to be a hell of an atmosphere once again this year. Mac, we might have the same game on Monday. Where are you going this week?
So Rocco already talks about him. John Griffin, we had him on, and he likes his team headed into year 2. They finished strong. They were arguably top 3 team last year to finish, and I know Colgate's been the standard in this league, but I think Bucknell's closed the gap here. I got Bucknell at Colgate Monday night. Love a little Patriot League on a Monday night. Talked about it. Load up these Monday and Fridays. And then Friday night, Rocco's going to love this one. A little Horizon action. Milwaukee, Bart Lundy going to the North at Northern Kentucky. Those are 2 of the top 4 teams. I actually like Milwaukee potentially to win the league this year. So I'm gonna get some Horizon Friday night and Patriot Monday night. It's a good week.
Alrighty, my guess on what you possibly had selected on Monday was wrong. I'm going to head down to Lake Charles. My second look at McNeese State. Yeah. They're hosting Stephen F. Austin. I think those are the 2 clear top 2 favorites in the Southland this year. McNeese State on another level, but just getting into their home and atmosphere against one of the top teams in the conference, I think that place is going to be pretty lit. And then Friday, January 24th, it's a brand play for me personally. Michigan at Purdue. That was the circled game on the conference schedule for me. Michigan heading into Mackey. Rocco, we're going to go into the next week, January 26th through February 1st. And I'm going to hope that we have a little bit of an overlap in this week because I think there's 2 possible games where I might see you this week.
We'll see. Well, I got to ask a question to both of you real quick. Are you familiar with the Arch Barron Cup?
No.
Not the name. Maybe I'm TMZ on this, but maybe the team rivalry could be. But no, I'm not.
So when St. Louis, I believe, was the later team to join the Atlantic 10, when they joined, St. Louis and Dayton fans created this mock rivalry that really took off. And so there's actually a whole website. There's a whole website dedicated to it called the Arch Barron Cup. We have another show with Hoops HD. We joke about it all season long. Yeah. But I think for bracketology purposes, if the Atlantic 10 is going to get multiple bids this year, this is a really big game. Dayton at St. Louis, arguably St. Louis's biggest home game of the year with Josh Schertz. Things should be rocking and rolling with the Schertz system by January 31st, which is the date of this one. And it's a Friday night. So you know it's going to be amped up at Chaffetz Arena. So really fired up for that one on Friday. Then we're going to get you out of St. Louis, and it's actually drivable if you want to get aggressive. And get you down to Fayetteville, Arkansas for the Calipari return. Oh, I'm sorry. This game's in Lexington. It's the Calipari return game in Lexington, of course. You're going to have to drive east from St. Louis. But Arkansas at Kentucky, obviously, Rupp Arena is going to be a madhouse for that one. I don't really have to explain that too much.
Yeah, that one was the one that was kind of like already slotted in for the dream travel schedule. You can't miss that one. That's the one Saturday that I'm going to break my typical rule to just – go in there. Hopefully it's like a Chris Beard, Ed Cooley situation. It's going to be a great game once again. Storylines galore. Mac, I might have overlap with you on Monday. I'm going to take a second swing here with you.
No, I have a Wednesday game. I'm going to the SoCon here. I got Sanford, Furman, 2 teams that have been in the dance the last couple of years. Furman got it done against Virginia. Sanford did not, just coming that close. Got a job, to be honest, against Kansas last year. So the 2 defending champs the last 2 years in the SoCon. And then I do have Calipari returning to Rupp. Everybody's got that one.
Yeah. My other game this week, I took another. So that's strike 2 with you, swing and a miss. But Navy at Army. I mean, why not? That one's What'd you say? You thought about it.
Yeah.
That one's also pretty self-explainable. That week, that was kind of set in stone for me pretty early on when we were constructing our schedules. And speaking of set in stone, to another week where I was kind of all over the place with a couple of different options. February 2nd through February 8th. Rocco, what did you decide on for this week?
Well, one of the priorities at the very beginning of this whole process, Noah, was to make sure we got a trip to the Palestra. There's no place like the Palestra, and I actually still haven't been, so I'm kind of making fun of myself as I talk. But why not go when they're taking on the best team in the Ivy League on paper? That's the Princeton Tigers, and a pretty deep rival at that. Not only that, but the Quakers season ended last year with a roaring dud of a 22-point home loss in the Palestra to Princeton. So Penn has actually got the most returning minutes, I believe, in the entire Ivy League. So they're looking to really fight back and get in the top 4 once again. Really disappointing 7th last year. So that's going to be our Friday night game. And then Saturday, this is where we're going to play the old Rocco Miller stay on your toes, because we're going to wait and see who the first place Sunbelt team is and who the first place MAC team is, because that Saturday they will have the best team from each league playing each other and then pair from there down. But we're going to go watch the best Sunbelt at the best MAC. MAC will be hosting, make it a little easier for us to get there from Philadelphia.
I love it. Yeah, I'll see you there at the Palestra. Mac, what did you decide on for this week?
So this was a late edition on Thursday night, February 6th. We got the Pac-2. We got Washington State, Oregon State, and Corvallis. You gotta get it. I mean, these are the 2 survivors, and then it's gonna be quite the red eye, because on Friday night I'm not going to the Palestra with you guys, but I'm going to Dayton, Ohio. I got VCU Dayton potentially for they're always in the mix to win the A-10.
Definitely.
All righty, yeah. Washington State, Oregon State on my short list for this one. A couple of games, but I decided to go February 4th. I'm going to go to the Butt Bowl in the Big 12. Baylor at Texas Tech. That one should be pretty fun. I'm very high on Texas Tech this year. I think Baylor's one of the top 6 teams in the Big 12. Texas Tech, top 6 team. Get me out to Lubbock. I'll have to rent a car after the airport and get over there, but that one should be a great game. Clash of different styles for sure. And then we're going to head into the week of February 9th through the 15th. Rocco, this is kind of where I would have maybe even said it last week, but bubble situations very, very, very much come into play here. February 9th, February 15th, where are you going to go this week?
Yeah, and I didn't mean to do a duplicate here. I didn't catch it. But I've got us going back to Rupp Arena. I think I filled in the Cal game later, which is how that happened. But Tennessee at Kentucky, obviously a great game on paper on the 11th. If I pull up the schedule that day, I can actually quickly give us a different one. But before I do that, I'll give you my second game because we're going to go to the OVC. And this is a game I'm pretty excited about because I've been meeting quite a bit over the last 6 months with the Western Illinois Leathernecks and a very underrated coach, JUCO legend, Chad Boudreau. I think Western Illinois is my pick this year to steal the bid. And if they're going to put themselves in position to do so, one of their key games will be Saturday the 15th against defending champion Morehead State. And so I'm looking forward to getting to Macomb. I haven't been to Macomb. That'll be a great one for the dream trip. And we'll stick with February 11th. And I'm just going to take us to a game that I think could have some bubble implications. We're going to go to Starkville for Florida, Mississippi State. That way we still get an SEC game. I still haven't been to Starkville. I get to see my buddy Todd Golden coach on the road. That'll be a great way to start the week.
All righty. I like the Florida call out. I think the Western Illinois, I think they're a player as well, but you got Morehead State, and I think Little Rock's going to be really good too. So I'm definitely pulling for those Leathernecks, but we'll see. I think they have a little bit of I picked them 4th, I think, in the OVC for the regular season. So certainly got a chance, in my opinion. We'll see. Mac, where are you going this week?
I got another Thursday, Friday week here. We're going to go to the CAA. I like these 2 as contenders. Charleston, always good under Coach Mack, and they're going to Wilmington, who I think is going to be right there to win the CAA. We mentioned it, man. Wilmington and Hofstra have just flown under, and Towson have flown under the radar, been overlooked by Charleston over these last couple of years. They've been 20-plus every year. I think that this is going to be a rocking environment in Wilmington. And then Friday night in the Ivy, Princeton, Yale. I mean, that's that's Princeton's biggest contender. Yale got it done last year. The 2 defending Ivy champions.
When I was going through the schedule, I was looking at High Point specifically because I wanted to get out and see them. But I didn't truly love any of the non-conference games personally. So I circled one of their biggest road games in conference play this week, and it's at Winthrop. I think Winthrop's one of the better programs down there in the Big South. So I'm going to cross off the Big South Saturday, February 15th. With that.
And Noah, that's the rematch of the game where Keza Jiffa hit the 3 to beat Winthrop and break their hearts last year.
Yes.
100%. So I totally forgot about that. But yeah, you're
ice cold 3. Shit. Yeah.
And then earlier in the week, that's my bubble game prediction. Xavier at Villanova. That's going to be a huge game for Nova, in my opinion. Xavier, a lot of people's, it's the sexy sleeper in the Big East this season. A lot of people even going up and picking them second in the Big East this year. I think that's a huge game for them, but bigger for Nova for sure, because that's a team that I think is going to find themselves on the bubble for most of the year. February 16th through February 22nd. Rocco, where are you going this week?
I'm excited for a little Tuesday night action in Richmond, Kentucky. And Eastern Kentucky is hosting Lipscomb. So Eastern Kentucky won the ASUN last year, only to be upset by 10-seeded Jacksonville in the ASUN tournament. So they're looking to bounce back. Lost some guys in the portal, but looking pretty good here early on in exhibition season. Lipscomb, of course, the pick to win it. So I think it's one of the big games of the year. And Eastern Kentucky, if you're not familiar, is going to be opening their new arena starting in conference play in January. So you get to see it right there in February with a lot on the line. It's supposed to be a beautiful facility. It's a renovation of their old arena, but opportunity to see that on Tuesday night. Not a big night to miss out on a lot of other action. And then on the weekend, I'm going to get you to the Garden for a big one. I think it's on Sunday actually, which is better than Saturday. And that's going to be Rick Pitino against UConn. Of course, that sells itself and gets you a big East game before it's too late.
All right. So I went Sunday through Monday. So sneak peek, that one's my next week pick. But I didn't clarify that pre-show. But that was like a huge topic of discussion because Pitino last year, I don't know if you remember, but he was like, we're going to play them at their on-campus stadium, and we're not going to play them in the MSG next year. And all of a sudden, this thing's scheduled in Madison Square Garden, and I think UConn's going to take. UConn's going to take that personally. I think that might be closer to a UConn home game. We'll see. But I think the Johnnies have potentially put a little bit of a blocker on the regional location of when you can purchase tickets or where you can purchase them from. So that's really interesting. But Rocco, the thing that you mentioned that I didn't catch news of during the year. So Eastern Kentucky's got a new building that they're going to be playing in. And you said they're renovating their old one. Are they playing any non-conference home games?
Yeah, they have a few non-conference home games. I think D1 and a couple non-D1. And those were all going to be – they have like a local D3 or D2 school they're going to be playing at, a small gym. Might even be like NAIA. You can look that up, though. But, yeah, like their home opener in the renovated arena is that first game in January. I think it's their ASUN opener. So that's a good one to add to the list as well. We didn't cover that in January.
Alrighty, good info. I did not catch that. Mac, where are you heading this week?
I'm joining Rocco in Richmond. I like this Lipscomb, man. I had to get an ASUN Lipscomb road game, Eastern Kentucky, that Havoc style that they play. We had AW on. He likes his team. I know they're young, but they're going to be good again. And I think they're going to get better and better and be playing their best ball. And then later in the week on Thursday, I'm going to Vermont to see Bryant's head to Vermont. I wanted to get a Vermont home game. I didn't want to see them on the road. I want to see them at home in front of that environment. So I got Vermont, the Catamounts, against Bryant.
All right. So I went different than both of you guys this week. Awesome. Sunday, February 16th, I'm going to be in the Valley, Des Moines, Iowa, for Bradley at Drake. Bradley, I think, is the favorite preseason to win the Missouri Valley, but I'm super high on the Bulldogs and Ben McCollum in his first year, like Rocco previously said during this show. And also another brand play for myself. I have to be there. Dusty May's first game against Michigan State at Chrysler, Michigan State at Michigan, Friday, February 21st. Sign me up. I'll be there.
That's a win.
We move on.
That's a win.
That's a win? All righty. I
Yeah.
like it. I'm definitely afraid of the final game of the year when all these Sparties are going to be kissing Sparty's head because Michigan State probably asked the Big Ten to get Michigan their last home game of the year. So senior day, that one's a scheduled loss, but I'll take the split in conference. We'll get the win against Sparty at home. I love to hear that. February 23rd through March 1st, the final week in February. Rocco, you already mentioned the game that I chose on the Sunday, February 23rd. This was actually super, super tough for me because it was a single day where I want to be at two places at once, and there was a couple of them. But this was the biggest one because Purdue at Indiana, like that one was super big. And I, unfortunately, for that game, I chose to be at St. John's just for the whole Rick Pitino drama from last year with UConn. But that game's so circled for Indiana after putting as much money into the roster as they did this year, and Purdue going to the national championship game. Indiana is out for blood there. That one's definitely a game that I would like to be at Sunday in this week. But Rocco, go ahead with the two destinations that you're going to be the last week in February.
Well, I think, it's pretty easy to agree that in the last 5 to 10 years, one of the greatest home court environments, at least watching the game on television, I'm sure it's even crazier in person, is in Lubbock, Texas with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And on Big Monday, they're going to be hosting Houston. Big Monday is a great night for your dream trip because you're not going to miss a lot of the other games. There's not a lot of games on Monday. Perfect night to go see one of the best teams in the country, travel to one of the best environments in the country. And I have Texas Tech number 17 going into the season. I know they didn't get ranked by the AP. I think that was
criminal.
I think it was a mistake. We'll see who's right later, but this should be an excellent game with a lot riding on it. We'll see how Texas Tech does in the conference, but that will just be a crazy frenzy. And then later in the midweek, we're going to stay on Thursday, get you down to Boca Raton and watch the Florida Atlantic Owls under John Jacobs. Got a lot of upside with Baba Miller. I think this team's better than most people think. And I think the American Conference is wide open. So we'll see how much weight this game has. But Florida Atlantic's hosting North Texas. I agree with what you guys said about North Texas earlier with Ross Hodge. They're going to probably be the best defensive team in the league, and defense travels. So North Texas should pick up a lot of road wins. This will be a great game. And here's the extra benefit. You're in Boca the rest of the weekend. You don't have to go to any more games. You can hang out in Boca.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a great point. Mac, where are you heading the final week in February?
So on that Sunday, I know you guys are going to go to the Garden, but I'm actually going to go over to Indiana, Purdue. And I mean, Sunday in Bloomington, those two teams hate each other. Indiana needs a big win. Purdue coming there late. Let's go. And I also hit my capacity for UConn, so I can't go to any more UConn games. And then Friday night, little MAAC action. It doesn't matter how many A's you got. St. Peter's, Quinnipiac.
I'll be there with you.
Oh, let's go, baby.
Yes, sir. I'll be there. Two of the better program. I don't know if Quinnipiac maybe in the program state lately, but last year they won the MAAC. St. Peter's has been a pretty good program in the last half decade. So, yeah, I'm going to be there. Let's sign us up. We'll get in press row for that one if we can swing it. Rocco, first week in March. This is the last regular season week for most conferences here. March 2nd through March 8th. This is typically where my family chooses to do vacation at the worst time. But yes. Where are you headed this week? Because I'll be in Florida on vacation.
Well, get your family to send you to Pensacola, because at least that way you'll be there for the Sun Belt quarterfinal day on the 8th. I think in the last couple of years we had a 1 year where I think every quarterfinal was an upset, or at least 3 out of 4. But the Sun Belt is so evenly matched, and these teams are chippy. A lot of great athletes in the Sun Belt. Great basketball. I've been meaning to get down there. So I think quarterfinals, you get the best bang for your buck. You get 4 games, same day, Pensacola. all good. And then, of course, if depending on how you want to play it, you can do Friday, same deal in St. Louis at Arch Madness, get 4 games, or you can just go to the championship game on Sunday. Again, you guys are counting Sunday as the following week, so let's just go with 8 games in 2 days. We're going to be in St. Louis for 4 on Friday, and then Pensacola for 4 on Saturday. It's going to be a ton of hoops, but nothing better than a conference tournament with basically, you guys can agree these are likely both 1-bid leagues. So all blood, sweat, and tears on the court in all 8 of those games.
That's a good deal. Mac, where you headed this final week of the regular season for conferences?
TMZ week for me here. And Rocco mentioned it. Big Monday is the best to go to because it's isolated, and these Big 12 games are unbelievable on Big Monday. Kansas, Houston, most likely for the Big 12 title. Games in Houston. Houston undressed them a little bit last year. I know Kansas was super banged up, but a little bit of revenge maybe. I know they played the Fog a couple weeks prior to that, and then on Saturday, I'll go to Duke, Carolina. You got to get Duke, Carolina. As much as we take jabs at the two, that's a great rivalry in Tobacco Road. So I want to get at least one of those games on my list. So, and I know it's going to be a Saturday night game. So that's the other part. It's going to be a late Saturday night game, to Rocco's point, where I can put a Saturday game in.
Yeah, and just for everybody, all their visual watchers on YouTube, for the audio listeners, I'm showing a little sticky note of all the conferences that I had crossed off, and then some games that, like, okay, I haven't represented this conference. I got to swing it. Final week of the year, I had to go with some conferences last minute, but usually conferences are really good at planning out their better games later in the season. We're going to head to the MEAC. Norfolk State at Howard. I think those are the 2 best teams in the MEAC. So that's going to be a great game. Then the following day, I'm going to get you up to Toledo, Ohio, for Ohio, who I think is the best team preseason wise, and Toledo, who's won the league 4 years in a row. I had to scratch off the MAC. Usually I love the MAC, but I had not gotten them into my dream schedule, and Toledo's my program. So that big game for me that I have circled that, if I wasn't in Florida on vacation, that I would want to be there in person, because Toledo's only a 50-minute jog from me in real life. So conference tournament week, March 9th through March 15th. You can choose to attend one conference tournament and then watch another one on a tablet, on a screen, if they're taking place at the same time, or you could possibly drive from one place to another if it's like close, or just one conference tournament. You're going to go to this specific day and then you're going to swing it to the next conference. Rocco, I'll let you take the stand. You can lead us off. Where are you going to be during the final week of college basketball before we get a big old bracket?
Yeah, well, you know me, I'll be in a bunker somewhere in real life, but for the fans, this is the dream trip for them, right? So I think one of my bucket list things, and I actually was supposed to go with a big group of people the year of 2020 when the season got shut down, is Big East quarterfinal Thursday at the Garden. It's still a bucket list thing. I will do that one year, but that's definitely the place to be on that Thursday. Just seeing those 4 games. When the Big East used to be a little bit of a larger league, it was an unbelievable day. Now you might get a couple blowouts, but should be pretty big with the 4 or 5 game. And every once in a while, the 8-9 winner will give the 1 a run for their money. And the environment at the Big East tournament, of course, almost unmatched besides maybe the Valley. So great day to be there Thursday. And then, because I just did this a couple weeks ago, I did the Amtrak from DC back up to New York. It's really not that bad. It's a beautiful train ride. Get on that train after Thursday, get down to DC and catch the A10, either semifinal Saturday or just wait till the championship game Sunday. Either one is a great option. The Atlantic 10 has almost a guarantee of a ton of drama, because even if they have one team in the at-large, in the at-large category, like last year, Dayton got knocked out of that thing early, and we knew whoever won it was taking the bid. But even if a team like that gets all the way to the finals, on the other side of the bracket, you have a bid stealer, and you want to be in the mix for a bid steal game to attend. That there's no bigger stakes than that. So get to DC. That's your best bet.
Mac, I think I know what answer you're going to say, but what conference tournament you going to be at? What conference tournament you want to watch? How are you going to swing it this final week?
So I am torn because as much as I love the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, it's on your bucket list, the Power and Light District and just the traditions with that. But West Virginia was originally a Big East. And the Big East tournament, I know that it's a little bit watered down from where it was once upon a time, but it's at the world's most famous arena. They're all regional. I mean, UConn, St. John's, that game was electric last year. We know Providence and Villanova's track record in that building. And I like Rocco's point too. You can scoot down to DC for the A10 if you need to as well, because that tournament ends on Saturday. You can get down there for the final. I don't know who's in the Barclays this year. Rocco, do you know off the top of your head if there's one going on at the Barclays? Because I know a lot of the time the A10 or the ACC's been there, but I think the ACC's in Greensboro.
Yeah, I think Barclays is off unless they have one of the women's.
Okay. Well, you could also go to the MAAC in Jersey too. I mean, you could sneak
Atlantic City. Yeah,
no doubt. So.
Well, the A10 goes to, the reason I picked it goes till Sunday actually, so you can get semis and finals in theory, but at least get the finals.
I like that. I think that's the best bang for your buck. Big East and A10 combined.
Yeah.
I'm actually I think I gotta no offense to you guys. You're going with the Big East. That's the place that is the holy ground of all sports. But I'm gonna head down to the deep south. I'm going Huntsville, Alabama, a place where my uncle formerly played hockey at this arena that they're going to be playing this tournament in. But the Conference USA, I talked about it earlier on this show. I don't know if there's going to be a team that's good enough to get an at-large bid here, but I think that this conference is good enough to win a game in the NCAA tournament. And all I know is that this conference tournament is going to be madness because the top two teams lost early last year. And this is the best home court environment league in the country. Last year, they had the #1 winning percentage on home courts. So getting to see all these teams on a neutral floor and truly like how well all of them are going to be is like pivotal for me. So I want to really be taking that Conference USA tournament in, but also within 2-hour drive, Nashville for the SEC conference tournament. I think that's one of the best conferences this season. I think the SEC is going to give the Big 12 a run for its money for best conference this season. That's going on the same time. Championship Day, Sunday, March 17th. If you wanted to swing it and go in person instead of like being in command center when the bracket comes out, totally go to the SEC tournament championship game. But also, I'm just going to be bouncing back and forth between the two sites for all those games. I think those are my favorite mid-major, my favorite high-major conferences for this upcoming season with just storylines galore all over the place. So, Rocco, this was a super fun exercise that I have wanted to do for a long, long time. And this is kind of what you do for a living. So I really appreciate you jumping on. Would you like to make this thing a normal, like a routine, a tradition every single season on the College Experience? Because I enjoyed it. This one ran a little bit longer, but now we know like kind of what we're dealing with, the monster, and how we can handle it for the upcoming year. Rocco, it was a ton of fun. I don't know if you want to add anything else after, but go ahead and take the floor, promote yourself and your content that you're going to do throughout the week before we get out of here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, of course, we should do this. It's a great exercise. It gets you a little bit more familiar with what's going on across the country, like schedule-wise, both non-league and in-league. I spend all my time on non-league, so once we got to January, I was like, oh, shoot, that's going on that week. Okay, good. But no, it was a great exercise. And I would also just say if there are people watching that do plan to make some travels, a good little trick is, Ken Palm's got a thing called Fan Match. I'm on there usually, but I think Torvik's got something similar as well. Basically gives the game an anticipated thrill score based on how good the teams are. And so I used to a rule of thumb was anything 40 or above is in the wheelhouse. Got to try to go. Anything less than 40, you need kind of like a little extra juice, some sort of storyline, or maybe there's an injury about or something that makes the game a little bit more competitive. But that's a really good way to look at it. So usually I'm looking at that about a week or two in advance before making final decisions. And outside of that, I'm going to be doing a lot this year. Going to be co-hosting the MidMajor podcast. They call it MidMajor, not my term. I like to say non-power. But on Field of 68, our first episode drops on Friday, so check that out. And I'll be on the Bracketology show full time starting in January for Field of 68. My website, bracketeer.org, has a lot rolling out. You can go if you want to see non-conference schedules in a very clean format, broken down by home, road, and neutral. I would recommend it for the top 15 leagues. We've got those posted. And then a bunch of previews are coming out. Did the Mountain West preview last week. We're going to break it down 2 big articles. One will be just the 1-bid leagues. The other one will be all the multi-bid leagues. And then the ending of all that will be the preseason bracket. So all of that's coming in the next week. It's all a race to the finish with preseason content. But, just keep in mind as you read through that information that I've been in touch with coaches in every single league in the country and really helped consult, build the schedule. And at the same time, I'm gathering information on who they think is going to be good and who's not going to be good. And all of that information is built into those predictions. So hopefully that's helpful for the audience. And love being on with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And anybody that's listening, notifications on Twitter, turn them on for Rocco Miller at Rocco Miller 8. Because certainly I have had that for like years. Mac, anything else that you want to add before we head on out?
No, man, we'll have games here going on full swing this time next Monday night. I appreciate you, Rocco, and can't wait for March Madness again this year. If we don't cross paths before that.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, and to see more content from us here at the College Experience, you can follow Ryan McIntyre on Twitter or all social media at Moneyline_Mac. You can follow myself anywhere on social media at NoahB77_. This has been the College Basketball Experience. Like Mac said, every single night we're going live previewing a lot of the, every single game, picking them against the spread and on the money line with this show. And that's going to wrap it up. That was a great show. I really liked the idea, and I think we killed it. So it was a great show. Go over and follow Rocco Miller again. Rocco Miller at Rocco Miller 8 on Twitter. This has been the College Basketball Experience. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.